This is the Nerdy Things Podcast. This podcast contains strong language, adult themes, and poorly developed ideas. We apologize for nothing. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome to the Nerdy Things Podcast, episode 23. I'm your host, Jules, and I'll say my heyo because we don't have Kevin, and joined always by Tim. Hello, Tim.
Hey, Jules, what's up?
How's it going, man? That was more difficult than I thought it would be. Doing an intro for a podcast we do every week, but if they haven't noticed, Kevin's not here. And Kevin is gone. He's in Disney World. Is that what he's doing?
He is doing, as I understand it, Disney World. He's doing Universal Studios. He's just being, a regular Floridian tourist right now.
That's very cool. We all had vacation time, and it was about time for Kevin to have his vacation. So that's we posted a picture about it. Yeah, we posted a picture of him there with his nerdy t-shirt, him having a good time on Facebook. So if you want to go check that out. And he posted some extra Patreon content as well, just a little tidbit of something he did while he was over there. So thank you for following us on all the, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Nerdy Things Pod. That's where you can find us at Nerdy Things POD. And all of them are different. You can follow us. We have memes on Instagram. We have some cool stuff on Facebook. And we talk to you on Twitter and all that. Thank you for following us, and thank you for going to nerdythingspod.com. We have all the nerdy news that we're going to talk about coming up, and we talk about it every week. And this week, if you didn't notice, our main topic is zombies. We're going to get into some zombie stuff later on. If you want to support us financially, you can go to patreon.com/nerdythingspod. And we have a new patron, which is pretty cool. And we might be hearing from her very soon, maybe within the next month, if the check clears. we'll get you on the show because she's a top tier patron, and I'd like to thank you. And we'll be in touch with you soon. And as soon as that happens, and as soon as it goes through, we'll get you on the show, and we'll talk about that whenever it comes up. So go ahead and be like her. We are so close to getting that first Patreon goal, watching Hook and providing a commentary for it, and I'm sure it'll be fun for y'all. I don't know how much fun it'll be for me and Kevin, but it'll be a thing.
Yes, and Jules, it is a goal. It is a goal worth achieving. It will be a success, and you will enjoy it. And we're making the big money now. We got big donors, big donors backing us.
Big donors, yeah. For some reason, we have people that really like us. And if you can't support us financially, an iTunes review would be the best thing for you, and we would appreciate that a whole lot. Go to iTunes, go wherever you're listening to the podcast right now, and just leave a review. We have a new review that I didn't know until today, which is pretty cool. It's by Katie F., and she says, "Great podcasts for nerds of all kinds." She says, "Love that they talk about so many nerdy topics, and it is so fun to listen to. Only critique is that I wish they had a woman in the group." Oh, man. So we need to get somebody else. We need to get a girl. That's the whole, we have a girl that donated, so she's going to be on the show, maybe for an episode, but
maybe for 5 seconds. We don't know.
I mean, yeah, maybe the whole episode, maybe for 5 seconds, but we'll see. We'll see how that dynamic works. But, we need a girl. Who do we need? Who can we get, Tim, on the show? Apparently that's what the listeners want.
We could probably get Scarlett Johansson. I think we're on that level, right? We could get her to come on.
Yeah,
the show.
What's she doing now?
Yeah,
she bombed with that one movie.
Yeah, she's a friend of a friend. So, I know some people.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, go do all that stuff. Go follow us. Go like us. Go review, subscribe, all that stuff, because we want to build this community of nerds. And we had a lot of people talking to us on Twitter and all that stuff. And thank you. If you want to send us emails, you can go to nerdythingspod@gmail.com. I had some people talk to us on Twitter saying, I have a really long response about that last episode. I really want to talk about so-and-so. How can we reach you in a longer form than a tweet? Go ahead and email us. nerdythingspod@gmail.com is how you can do that. So I think that's pretty much it. Oh, you can get t-shirts and all that cool stuff. TeePublic, look up Nerdy Things Pod, all one word. Oh man, I haven't talked like this in a while. My throat is killing me. I've been out this whole weekend and I'm dying generally.
You gotta go to tpublic.com.
There you go, Tim.
If you want to just type it all in, I think it's tpublic.com/user/nerdythingspod, no spaces. Or if you just go to tpublic.com and search Nerdy Things Pod, you're going to see our merch. And there's a coupon code. It's also Nerdy Things Pod, no spaces. Some of the things are on sale, but they're all really cool. And Kevin will be our model going forward, unless we can find a girl.
Yeah. Cool. There's the cool I'm a cool nerd design. There's the Stranger Things nerdy things design. The Tobey Maguire is my Spider-Man, which is my favorite that we have. Slick Kitties. We have a ton of other stuff. Our logo, our iTunes logo as well, and all that stuff. So go to TeePublic, like Tim said, get something. Pick up something for your nerdy friends or your husband, wife, whatever. So, do you want to get into it?
Nerdy news.
At 6 o'clock.
So one thing that a lot of people were excited about was the announcement of Star Wars Land, which is now called Galaxy's Edge. Disney confirmed that they're working on a fully immersive Star Wars experience for people to walk around, eat, drink, and sleep in. It's like a hotel that requires guests to wear Star Wars uniforms and gear and all that. Would you go to this theme park, Galaxy's Edge, Tim?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm a big Star Wars fan, but I'm not like, wow, one of those people. I'm obviously a bigger Harry Potter fan, and I will say going to Harry Potter World I've been there twice, been one of the coolest experiences of my life. And I think part of that edition, I think Universal is a better trip than Disney right now. But, with Avatar coming to Disney, with Star Wars coming to Disney, that might change. I mean, if they do the details and everything as well as Universal did with Harry Potter, they have a huge hit on their hands. I think it'd be a blast. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I didn't ask you, did you ride that 4D Harry Potter ride?
I did them all, man.
The one in the Hogwarts. Oh my God, that was ridiculous. I was not expecting that at all. It was just way more than I expected. And it was just fantastic. I was like, whoa, super. All my senses are going crazy right now. But
yeah, they did a good job. And from what I'm hearing with this Star Wars thing, it's going to be like a whole day interactive experience that like every part of your day will put you in the story, it should be pretty cool.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like is that they're comparing it to Westworld. Now Westworld is sort of an apocalyptic take on that with robots going bad and artificial intelligence being questioned and all that. But I don't like that they're comparing it a whole lot in the articles that I read to Westworld. So that's one thing that kind of scares me. But like having that whole full experience from the moment you wake up and having like a storyline that you personally are going through, that's an RPG player's dream, I think. And
right.
That's super fun. But I can only imagine how much that would cost, an experience like that, how much that would cost to stay, to do the whole thing, for them to be interacting with you every minute of the day. I think that's going to be kind of expensive.
Well, everything at Disney costs $1 billion.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's probably going to be $1.5 billion because it's a little bit above their normal thing. But I mean, bottom line is if you're a person going to Disney these days, you got to be prepared to just lay out the cash. They're getting you every single place. So yeah, it's going to be expensive, but that's per usual at a Disney theme park these days.
For sure. I'm not even going to try to do Kevin's segues because Kevin does phenomenal segues. If you haven't noticed, that's the in joke that we do every time he does nerdy news. Go back and listen to all the episodes. He does amazing segues. So I'm just going to do whatever I want. So I just read this article right now that this morning it was announced, or last night on the AV Club, that after 600 episodes and 2 Emmys, at midnight with Chris Hardwick is gonna finish already in August. So a lot of people love that show. I was gonna go watch it in LA whenever they had opening, but they didn't have an opening for me to be in the audience. But 600 episodes and 2 Emmys, and they're gonna be calling it quits, and that's a marvelous achievement for a nightly show, I think. And they were like really popular because they used a bunch of hashtags. They were super in on the in crowd and all that stuff. So Chris Hardwick did a really good job. You heard him. If you don't know who he is, he's from the Nerdist company, I guess. He does Nerdist podcasts, and he was on the Talking Dead, which was the Walking Dead after show, and then he hosts this At Midnight show. And it was pretty funny. It had some pretty cool people on, and they're just calling it quits. They said that they're done. They accomplished everything they wanted to accomplish, and it's just about that time. So that's something that I just read this morning that happened.
Cool.
Something else that not is very niche that not a lot of people really care about. I don't know if you heard of a band called My Chemical Romance.
Of
Tim,
course.
do you know that band? So Gerard Way, apparently he wrote a comic book series called The Umbrella Academy.
Okay.
And it's going to be turned into a live action series on Netflix, which is really interesting. And it's going to be run by Steve Blackman, who did FX's Fargo, and he'll be the showrunner there. But the pilot episode of the series will be written by Jeremy Slater. He is best known for creating the Exorcist TV show that's on Fox right now. But I didn't even know he was doing fucking comic books. There's it's gonna be like a 10 episode series that's gonna be on Netflix now, and that's kind of interesting.
Who knew, man?
Right?
He was a great lead singer back in the day. I mean, I don't know if they're still doing music, but back when I was young buck, they were pretty good. A couple of big songs.
Did you have an emo phase? I didn't even ask.
I wasn't real big into the whole emo thing. I liked some of the music, but yeah, definitely not my bread and butter. While that was going on, I was listening to Jack Johnson, Jason Mraz, what's his name? Guitarist John Mayer. There's a lot of that kind of stuff.
I didn't know if you were that millennial enough, if you were that leaning on the millennial side, that you had an emo phase. So that's some of the other stuff. There's one other thing that I want to talk about before we get into like some D23 news and all that, is that the new Doctor for Doctor Who, if you don't want any spoilers, I know it's really hard to avoid this spoiler, but the 13th incarnation of the Doctor is a female.
Wait, the Doctor's going to be a female?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that 74 times on my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter feed in the first 1 hour that it was announced.
That's one thing I really hate. Like they make it such a huge thing now, like when they announce the new actor, and of course now it's because it's an actress now, but I want to be surprised. Like I want to be surprised whenever he regenerates. I want to just, okay, be in the moment. But they made this whole thing. They're like, after men's Wimbledon, we're going to announce the new Doctor, whatever. And it's like, oh my God. And everybody was talking about it. It's going to be Jodie Whittaker. She's a fantastic actress. She's on Broadchurch, which is kind of cool. She is moving over to Doctor Who with Chris Chibnall. I think that's his name. He's the show writer for Broadchurch, and he's moving over, and Stephen Moffat is leaving. Chibnall's taking over, and Jodie Whittaker as well is coming to be the Doctor. So I know you're not a big Doctor Who fan. I don't know how much you know about Doctor Who, but a lot of people were bothered by this, about this alien that has alluded that he's been a girl before, and that gender doesn't really matter to these higher beings called Time Lords. And his best friend that's one of the last Time Lords with him this past couple seasons, he turned into a girl. But apparently the Doctor can't be a girl. I mean, I don't know if you have any feelings on this, or like you're just oblivious, or you don't care, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know a damn thing about Doctor Who.
Sure, yeah.
Like I said, my only opinion is, holy crap, you'd think that, like, I don't know, the Earth opened up and a whole new being came out of it, or that the sky turned red or something by the way that this news was out there. Like, I just could not believe how much of a barrage of Doctor Who headlines hit me in the last day or so. It was bananas, and that's all I got for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess because in the span of about 54 years, this show has been on the run for 54 years total. And, well, probably even more because they stopped for a while, but it's been for the most part, an old white guy, a white male. And, people got accustomed to it, and people are like, oh, it's just going to be another white guy. And, in the time and the climate that we have right now, they don't want it to be. Nobody wants it to be. And a lot of people are saying it was boring. It's boring to have another white guy. Let's bring something else into it. And out of every, it's just randomly generated in the show. It says, it's randomly generated, that his features, his structure, his body is all randomly generated. And it was just really weird that he is always a white guy. And a lot of people took problems with that. And now it's a female. And now a lot of people are taking problems with that as well. And a lot of men are saying they're not going to watch it anymore. And that's really stupid. And I mean, it's just really weird. And it really tells on how we are as a society still, that we're not, open to that anymore, or we're not open to that yet. And that's just really weird that, people were combating this news with them saying like, well, we need more. What about my boys, my sons? They need male role models and all this stuff. And people were like, well, what about my little girls? They need, women role models like Wonder Woman, or, now the Doctor. And I saw so many videos of parents, taping their young girls just watching this reveal and then being so happy and being overjoyed that the Doctor is going to be a woman now. And that really does matter to people. And I really hate seeing all the hate that she's getting already. And she's not even, she hasn't even done anything yet. She hasn't even shot her first shot or anything. It was just like a teaser. And she's already getting a ton of hate. But I don't know. I like it. And yes, there was a ton of stuff about it just because it was a huge thing and everybody was making it a huge thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the internet, man. People are going to get hated on. It's just how it goes. You just got to step it up and deliver good work, and then everybody will be like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. I kind of like this thing. So, yeah, it just comes with the territory, especially when it's a property as beloved as Doctor Who. I mean, when you're on for 50 years, you've set up, certain expectations. I mean, it was the same. It was the same kind of thing when they cast the Cursed Child play in London, and Hermione was. I don't know how to say this, so I would say, because I want to be politically correct, African American, but she's British. So she's not African American. So I don't know what the appropriate term for me to use, but she was a African American or black woman, as Hermione Granger, and it was like, a big outcry about this. And I will say, like, true. Personally, I wasn't a fan of it just because, like, I know, when you read a book, like, you put your own values on it, but I think J.K. Rowling described certain characters with characteristics that made you think that they were of a different ethnicity, whether they were black or whether they were Indian. And, so I think that there were characters of other races in the books. I just don't think Hermione was one of them. Now, she put her stamp of approval on it. So, I mean, if the actress was the best fit for the role, fine, that's cool. But it's another one of those things. I don't think you necessarily have to add, a black actor just to try and look diverse. I think if the character was written that way, then you should cast them that way. But, I said, it's just, there was so much outcry, and then the play came out and everybody really enjoyed her, and it all passed over. So I guess that was kind of my overarching point, is if Doctor Who's a woman and she delivers a good job, everybody will forget about it and like her in the end. So.
Yeah, for sure. And it was, I think people just thought about it as, like, before they saw it with Hermione, that oh, she's just adding this person for diversity, but it's like, oh, well, did you ever think that she might actually be really good at what she did?
Of course, yeah.
and yeah, so that's kind of a thing where it's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess she was the best one that won the job, So, yeah, definitely. That was a huge thing. I remember that. So let's get into some D23 news. What you got? There's a lot of stuff that happened.
So much stuff, man. The crazy thing with D23 is all of the kind of preview footage that they show that doesn't get leaked at all.
No.
Because all I'm hearing, like, there was a bunch of little clips, but the biggest one is the Lion King, which we've talked about a lot. Kevin's kind of like, oh, it's just going to be CG anyways.
Yeah. People
were astonished at the 3D animation in the recreation of the whole opening of Lion King. Mm-hmm. Apparently it was a shot-for-shot kind of remake, and everybody said that it was just incredibly beautiful. So, but I want to see it. Like, I want to see what they mean. I want to see what that looks like.
So it just doesn't get leaked until like when?
I don't know. Like, because apparently there's no one with cameras in there or whatever. I'm sure at some point Disney will choose to let it out there, probably closer to the release. But everybody was just mind blown by how amazing it looked.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I read a bunch of articles. They're just like, oh my God. And then when Simba sneezed or something and his whole body shook and it looked so realistic, and it was a whole like shot for shot opening from what we're used to, that whole him holding him up and all that stuff apparently. And they did a fantastic job with what's the other one, the Jungle Book that we talked about already. And I can only imagine with so many animals in this one. I mean, there was a ton of animals in Jungle Book as well, but seeing that iconic scene played again in realistically, I'm sure it looks fantastic.
Yeah, and it was cool because I read some excerpts of an interview with Jon Favreau, and he parroted a lot of what he said about the Jungle Book, which I talked about on this podcast too, where he said, he was a huge fan of the Jungle Book growing up. That was part of his childhood. So he went through the movie and said, okay, what are the things all these years later that I remember? And those specific elements and scenes he tried to, recreate shot for shot so that people will have their expectations met. And he said, for me, The Lion King wasn't that, but I've been talking to all of these younger people who was a part of their life and said, okay, tell me the things that you remember. And he says, obviously one of them was the opening sequence, and that's where we started. So I wanted to create that just as it was. He said, but, there's all of these things in between where I have license to kind of play around with and make new and different and unique and creative. But, that his intention is to be true to the core elements that will make people just go nuts over. So I love his approach to these remakes, where he knows what he has to do, but he knows where to find his own creative vision for, the gray area, the spaces in between that. So I just, Jon Favreau is an awesome dude, and I think he's going to do a great job with it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's like the only way to do it.
Yeah.
the way to, I mean, that's the correct way, I think, just to get those iconic moments, and then you can kind of freeform whatever. It's kind of like whenever you play jazz or something like that, where it's like you have to play this beginning with everybody. You have to do this tune because everybody knows this tune. But then in the middle, there's like a lot of solos, and that's kind of what he's doing. There's like solo stuff. He's going by himself. He figures out what he wants to do, and it kind of changes a little bit from what you remember. And it's like, oh, okay, this is a little different, but this iconic scene's coming up, and here it is. Okay, awesome. And I'm really sure that he's going to do that with The Lion King, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, what a perfect analogy too. Just like a piece of good jazz music. Take your spots, but make sure you get the certain parts right. Yeah,
for sure. Another thing from D23 is there's some behind the scenes footage of The Last Jedi that they got to see. I mean, that we don't get to see.
I know, this is the thing about talking about D23 is like there's so much cool stuff, but we didn't see it. So how are we going to talk about it?
So some fortunate people got to see a ton of cool stuff. There's apparently Lin-Manuel Miranda steals the show with his character in Mary Poppins Returns. I think that's what it's called. A lot of people like that. I don't think this was that.
They cast the Aladdin
Oh yeah.
movie,
Okay.
so that was the thing. I mean, we talked about it. You got Will Smith playing the genie. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, Jules. Update now that it's real.
Now that it's real, yeah, I don't know. Will Smith as the genie, I don't know. I just want him to be his own character. I don't want him to follow Robin Williams at all. I don't want him to sound like Robin Williams because, of course, if I hear that, it's going to be subpar already. You know what I mean? Like if he tries too hard to be Robin Williams' genie, then it's just going to be like, oh, you're not him. Okay, well, this is not good. You know what I mean? It's like it's going to taint it a little bit because he's trying to act like somebody else. I want him to do his own original thing. I don't know if I want him to have the same catchphrases or anything. I don't know how I want it to be. I just want it to be different, and I want it to be Will Smith's interpretation. Well, I'm pretty sure Will Smith always kind of does his own thing, and it kind of is like Will Smith is this person in all these movies. He's like the same person to me. Yeah, but I don't know. What are your thoughts? I don't know.
I was a fan of Will Smith at a time. I don't think he's done anything really good in a while. I liked him as the Fresh Prince. I liked his music. I mean,
yeah.
I go way back with Will Smith, and he went from this goofy kid to somebody who was a really talented actor. And then I think, part of what happened in his career is he got a little overexposed, but he also kind of was going for the Oscar grabs. He had a little flirtation with some Oscar nominations, and then he started taking roles that he thought would put him, in that position. And I think it became a little obvious and it turned people off. And, he went through kind of a down period. I love Robin Williams. I love Aladdin. I love the genie. And I just really hope that he, doesn't try and be the Robin Williams genie. Like you said, I don't want this. This is one of the few of the Disney movies. I don't want it to be like the cartoon, mostly because of how much Robin Williams made it. And I think any part that involves him needs to be different. It needs to separate itself. Even the story needs to change because Will Smith doesn't have the same talent set. He's not going to change voices and he's not going to change characters. He's Will Smith. So they need to try and play the genie differently. If they want to do the magic carpet scene, the thief running through the streets, trying not to get his hand cut off. If they want to recreate those parts, yeah, I'm all for it. That would be actually a really great cinematic, couple of iconic scenes there. But where it involves the genie, I think they've got to go a whole nother direction. I think it's the only way to make it work.
For sure.
And they've cast the other main roles too. There's a guy named Mina Masood, if I'm saying that right. Masood. He is an Egyptian Arabian actor. They were really hoping to get someone of Arabian descent, and it looks like they landed him with that part. The woman who was cast, you would know her, Jules. She was in Power Rangers. Naomi Scott is her name. She's a British Indian actress, and so they didn't quite get where they wanted to get with that, but she's a talented woman apparently, and I don't know, you tell me, Jules, you saw that movie. Was she any good?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And she's pretty beautiful. So
okay. So there
I'm
we
okay
go.
with that.
So a couple good castings there. So we like the rest of it. We're unsure on Will Smith, but we like the rest of it. So that's good.
Yeah. Again, a lot of people had a problem. They were, discussing they better have this race for Aladdin and all that stuff. So race is definitely a huge thing in pop culture right now.
Yeah.
And casting the right parts for the right race, I guess, is a whole thing. And people do care about it. So
well, we've had centuries of white people cast in minority parts. So, I think where these particular stories are set in geographical locations, I think it is, appropriate to try and stay true to that casting and not fall in the trap we've fallen into before. So I get it, but once again, if you get an Indian actress, British Indian actress that's the most talented and fits the part, great. That's fine too. It's all good.
For sure. Some other news, The Incredibles 2 we got some new info on The Incredibles 2. Did you like The Incredibles? That was kind of a while ago. That was a while ago,
I know,
but it still does hold up. I really enjoy it still.
When I was a home theater sales professional, and we had to do predictable demos to say, oh, this is going to make a TV look really, really good. It was about the time that The Incredibles had come out, or at least on Blu-ray or DVD when it first came out, and it looked amazing. It was a really great looking movie.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't put it up there with like Toy Story, as one of the all-time greats, but in my opinion, it's up there. It's one of their better ones, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we got some info on Incredibles 2. It's going to focus on Elastigirl, and it's going to be right after the first movie ended. So it's going to take place like a couple minutes after the first movie ended, and it's going to focus on Elastigirl, voiced by Holly Hunter. And now that the audience knows that Jack has a ton of superpowers, we're going to see if he's going to join the team or what's going to happen with him. So it's going to be coming out next year, almost July 15th, 2018, I think.
Cool.
So we got some info on that. And Toy Story 4, it got a new director. So Josh Cooley, who was announced as Lasseter's co-director, he's going to handle the whole movie by himself. And this is his first solo movie. How do you feel about the Toy Story franchise now? I don't know if I really like Toy Story 3, and I don't know if I need a Toy Story 4. I mean, I know they're really good. Like the first two are fantastic, don't get me wrong, and they look fantastic and continue to look amazing, but do I need another one and buy this guy's first solo film with, I don't know.
So Toy Story was 100% revolutionary. It launched Pixar into the mainstream. It was at the time one of the most astonishing uses of computer animation we'd ever seen. It took like 5 years to make or something like that, because back then this type of just the rendering alone took ages because the computer power didn't exist,
Yeah, for sure.
So just rendering scenes took days and days. So it was incredible. And then obviously we have almost had a whole new genre of movie as a result of it. Toy Story 2 to me wasn't a spectacular follow-up to Toy Story 1. I mean, it was fine, but I actually thought Toy Story 3 was incredible. I mean, there was people who wanted Toy Story 3 to be nominated for an Oscar and thought that, in the world of computer animation cartoon, that nobody had ever seen anything as emotionally evoking as Toy Story 3. So I thought that was like the perfect way to end that series. So I don't know how I feel about Toy Story 4, because I thought they ended it great. I mean, there was closure to the story arc, and I took my nephew to see that, who had been watching Toy Story since he was young, because that movie came out, well before he was born, and he was only, gosh, I mean, when did that come out? 2010? Something like that.
It was a while
so
ago,
he was like 4. And they're going down that, conveyor belt or whatever it was. And it looks, it looks like they're going to go into the lava. And I'm looking at the face of this 4-year-old who's grown up with these characters, who's still in that, imagination mode. And his eyes are getting really big, and he reaches for my hand to hold my hand, because you could tell he's like scared, like what is happening? And then they saved, like it was emotional for me, but to watch a kid, go through that, it was just a powerful movie. I thought it was in an interesting way. And so I don't know how I feel about them, revisiting these characters. I really hope that if they're going to ditch Andy, I think the story arc of Andy ended. So I don't think that they should... Go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be with his sister, I think, because I watched like a Halloween... They had like a featurette, like a 30-minute feature of these characters on Halloween, I think last year or the year before. And it was like the original characters. It was the voice actors. And I was like, oh, this is like canon. I was like, oh my God. Okay. I'm going to watch this, whatever. And his sister had all the toys. And for some reason, the box gets left behind and they get stuck with this like toy collector or something like that. Something just really small, really short, but they were like, the whole thing was like they were scared because there was like a monster, but it turned out it was like just an animal or some kind, whatever. But yeah, I think that was canon, I think, and that it's going to be with his sister.
Well,
and
at the end of the third movie, he left
whatever.
him with that girl. Remember?
Or yeah, I don't know.
So
I don't know.
so
I
that
don't
like
remember.
because that if they want to pick up there, then okay, we've got a new story arc with a new family. I just don't want to revisit Andy and his family because that was so perfectly ended. That stage of his life was over.
Yeah,
he
for
passed it on, wanted to give the enjoyment to someone else, and I thought that was great. So if they want to pick it up from there, that's fine. But if they try and go back and revisit Andy, even if it's I don't know, that's done. It's over with. Leave it behind, Disney.
Mm-hmm. Or we can get like a prequel.
Oh, geez.
No, so we got a lot of info on that. Some other cool stuff. We got some trailers. There was a Wrinkle in Time trailer. I don't know.
Are you familiar with A Wrinkle in Time? It's not on my radar.
Yeah, I remember reading some of the books in like late elementary school, middle school, just because they were kind of a thicker sized book, and it was a little intelligent the way they read it. So I was like, oh, this is difficult for me. Okay, cool. I'll try it out. They had a few different books, and it was all sort of interesting. I don't know if I'm down for a movie or not, but that was one of the trailers.
I mean, Oprah's involved, so that's a big story. I'm serious.
Yeah, for sure. Mean, yeah.
Oprah was the queen of the planet. She kind of gave up her kingdom to a degree to Ellen, and so it looks like if she's going to be in a big Disney movie franchise from a beloved book, that she might be ready to get back in the limelight and regain her kingdom. So that's anything time Oprah's involved, that's a huge story.
Mm-hmm. And she'll definitely make it a huge story. But I don't know personally if I'm okay with the movie. I mean, I'm sure it'll do fine. It'll be a whole nother franchise that we're going to need to keep up with because everybody loves those.
Yeah.
Having
Dumbo, we got a little real sneak peek of Dumbo. Is basically Tim Burton on a train caboose. That's all we got, but Tim Burton, Dumbo, that's a thing that's happening.
Oh man,
there's going to be, so we talked about the Star Wars world. There's going to be a Tron ride at Disney World, which could actually be really cool.
Oh,
and there was
that sounds really interesting.
A vague reference / strong rumor to a Marvel area coming several years down the pike. So man, theme parks are stepping up their game, dude. I'm telling you that much.
Yeah, trying to get people out there and doing stuff. I mean, that's cool. They make a ton of money, I'm sure. So why not? Another trailer that I'm pretty excited for the movie was Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist is an anime, and it's becoming a whole Japanese movie, I think. And I don't even know what it is. I think it's Japanese, but it's going to be a live action movie, and that looks fantastic. The trailer that I saw, and it makes it look really cool. I don't know how they're going to fit 50 some odd episodes into this, but they might be just doing the first story arc with the homunculi, which is pretty fun. And the Disaster Artist trailer with James Franco and crew. And that looks really funny about, The Room. I don't know if you've seen The Room, Tim. Maybe we should do that for a thing. The Room, for a Patreon content. We all watch The Room. It's 30 minutes of the worst movie you've ever seen. If you haven't seen it, Tommy Wiseau. And it's just horrible. Horrible acting and all that stuff. Is that from this year,
The Room, or is it?
The Room. No. It's an old movie.
2006, 2003?
Yeah, something like that. And you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. It's all on YouTube if you want to watch it. Okay. But The Room, it's like 30, 40 minutes of the worst movie by Tommy Wiseau, starring him, directed by him, made by him, everything by him. And it is literally so bad. And now they have a movie with James Franco and crew, Seth Rogen and all of them, his brother as well.
The better looking Franco.
Yeah, for sure. He has a beard in this one. He looks really not good.
James one, or the better looking one?
The better looking one.
He has a beard.
He's all in this movie. In the trailer you see it all. But it's this movie documenting the making of The Room, and it's really, I think it's going to be really funny. And if you haven't seen The Room, please watch it and let us know that you don't like it. And I'm sorry that I'm recommending it, but It's hilarious, and it's some bad acting, and there's some gems in there.
I'm
But,
interested in
James
watching this
Franco,
movie, The Disaster
Yeah.
Artist, because that is a great cast. And did you
Yeah.
know that Alison Brie and Dave Franco were married?
I just noted. I just knew that by looking all this info up. They're like, oh yeah, they just recently got married. I was like, what? No way.
Man, can you imagine what their kids will look like? Holy crap!
Right?
Some beautiful children right there. Sorry, side
Yeah.
rant there.
No, it's all good. So, any other news other than
hold
you know?
on, I think I got something. So Stan Lee, if I'm not mistaken, Stan Lee got his Walk of Fame thing this week. Is that right? Yes. Stan Lee, yep, July 18th, 2017. He got his footprints, his handprints in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Kevin Smith was the MC. That's how I heard about it. He posted about it on Instagram.
Mhm.
Very honored to be a part of that. And there was some other,
awesome.
like Kevin Feig. How do you say his last name? Feig? Is that how you say Kevin?
Feig.
Feig, yeah.
Feig.
Kevin Feig was there. The guy who's playing Black Panther, I believe, was there. So it was a cool little thing. Obviously, tough time for Stan Lee, so it was cool to see him have this great honor during
sure.
this time. So that was neat.
Very cool. Any other news before we get into it?
No, man, I think it's huge topic time.
Awesome. Huge topic.
Huge topic.
So in lieu of course, I think everybody heard about it, George A. Romero and his passing, we decided to do something, sort of honoring him, just kind of in respects to his genre, the whole zombie idea, and he invented whatever, the modern zombie as we know it. So we wanted to talk a little bit about zombies in pop culture, maybe our favorites, some things that we hate about it, and just everything and things like that. So I'll probably start off. What's your first instance or first introduction to zombies at all, ever? Like, what got you?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, what was something that made you, interested in zombies, or the horror genre or whatever?
Well, I mean, the horror genre is a different thing when it comes to zombies. Like, gosh, I don't even remember. I just remember cartoons, having, zombies. Whether it was, even like little Disney shorts and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Them walking with their hands forward slowly, and they just always seemed like really boring,
for sure,
villains to me, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
So with the resurgence of zombies, I have mixed feelings on the whole zombie thing. I actually generally more enjoy the comedy versions of zombie movies than the horror movie versions of zombie movies.
That, like Shaun of the Dead and things like that?
Shaun of the Dead, perfect example. Zombieland, I think,
super funny.
Honestly, might be one of my top 20 all-time favorite movies. Like, absolutely love Zombieland. So yeah, stuff like that, I think I get a big kick out of, because to me, it's like the perfect genre to parody, because unless it's done super, super well, it's hard to take zombies seriously, in my opinion. So, I love the comedy versions of it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I think my first instance of zombies was when I saw 28 Days Later, which is a fantastic movie. It visually,
one of the few really good ones. I agree.
Yeah, that was the first, I think, that I can remember. That's the first movie that I saw that had zombies in it. And I was, quote unquote zombies. There's tons of interpretations of what a zombie is, but I saw that movie and it just sort of changed my life. I've seen that movie 10 times. It never gets old. Just the aesthetic, the way, the humans interact with each other, the daunting, visuals of him being alone in the beginning, sort of Walking Dead-esque now. I can compare it to that because people know that, but them being alone and just going through the world, trying to live and stuff like that. I really like the dynamic that, the humans have in this apocalyptic world. And that happens a lot in Romero's movies, some of the later ones as well that he's made. But where a zombie movie shines for me is the interaction and the way that humans interact with each other in the zombie apocalypse. And that really shows how, how we are all, very primal at a time, and how that kind of strips away, how zombies sort of strip away everything from, the world that we worry about now. We worry about getting on time to somewhere. We worry about listening to so-and-so, watching this, blah, 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 whatever. But then whenever that's all stripped away, it really shows what we're actually made of. And that's really interesting. And if it's done right, it's a fantastic piece of film or books. I read a lot of zombie books as well. And zombies were like a huge thing for me for a really long time. And I really enjoy that, as well as the funny stuff. Like you said, Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland is super cool. But whenever a zombie movie can really get me thinking, and if it's not about the zombie, then I think that's where they get it right. Where a lot of it is.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best part, is when it isn't so much about the zombies, but about the humans in that element.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that in Walking Dead too. I think the best seasons of Walking Dead are when it's about the, human characters, not so much about, the zombies chasing them.
Yeah, how it's just the background. Like, that's what's going on behind everything. That's the crux of it all. But these humans still have to survive, and they don't have a whole lot of resources. How are they going to do this? There's people fighting people. A lot of the time, there's a lot of people that kill each other more than zombies kill them. And that's really interesting. And it really shows how we are, deep in our psyche or whatever. I was reading there's a ton of books out there. We don't really talk about a whole lot of books anymore, but there's like a bunch of compilation short stories that I really enjoy. There's a ton of those out there, and they're really interesting by these writers that aren't that well known, but they make really cool zombie short stories in a small world. I'll definitely check those out. Some of them with what's his name that wrote World War Z.
So interesting thing to me, I've never read a zombie book,
Sure.
But thinking about that, what I like and don't like about the genre in film, I could see where it would make a better book than movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because in real life, watching the zombies, they don't always it's one of two extremes usually. Either they don't pose the threat that you want them to, because they're not fast enough,
yeah,
or,
for sure.
not aware enough. And you're like, just keep running for a while, dude. Like, just get distance and then stop and catch your breath and figure stuff out. Or it's like World War Z, which I did like that movie, but those zombies, like, how do you get away from them?
Yeah.
They're bananas. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So it's like one or the other. But I think in a book, you could write that kind of slower zombie. You could write more tension into it in the imagination. Actually, I think that would be kind of cool. I might ask you, Jules, to recommend some zombie books for me to check out.
Yeah, for sure. There's a ton of them. The Zombie Survival Guide and World War Z aren't really the zombie books I'm talking about, but those are really cool by Max Brooks. Max Brooks writes a bunch of those short stories as well, and his short stories are really cool. And the one that I read recently, he was just kind of there was an introduction by him, and he was just talking about how, who are you going to be in the zombie apocalypse? We all think we're going to be that hero. We all think we're going to be that person that saves everybody, that gets the girl in the end, that finds that car and drives off into the sunset or whatever. But most of the time we're not going to be. And going into that and really diving into that idea that not everybody's the hero and all that kind of stuff is what they explore in books. And it's really awesome that not a lot of people can explore through the zombie movie, because everybody wants to see the hero win and all that stuff. But in a zombie short story, they can explore a whole lot of stuff, even like artificial intelligence being like a zombie sort of thing, like that going rogue. And there's a ton of, books out there and short stories that I really enjoy because they don't take the traditional zombie route. that we see in
everybody
a ton of
wants to be
movies.
the hero and drive off to the amusement park. That's what everybody wants to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, so you liked 28 Days Later. That was your first kind of
Yeah.
foray into the genre.
Mhm.
What were your thoughts on 28 Weeks Later, the follow up to that? Did you like that movie as well?
That was okay. Yeah, I did they make another one after that? I don't even remember.
I believe they did. I'm trying to remember what it was, but
28 years.
28 years. I mean, 28 Days Later was, like I said, in my opinion, also one of the great zombie movies. And that was, we talked about this guy last week. Danny Boyle was the director of that. And I think Danny Boyle's ridiculously talented and he does a great job with most of his movies. The 28 Weeks Later, interesting. The guy who directed it was one Carlos Fresnadillo. Who's there we go. Who's not exactly your acclaimed director, but the cast of that movie, this is 2007, actually turned out to be a lot of big hitters.
For sure.
Rose Byrne, Jeremy Renner, Idris Elba, even Robert Carlyle. He's done a lot of TV work. Those guys were relative unknowns at that point, but they turned out to be some big hitters. So it may not have had the tremendous direction, but there was a great cast in that movie. And I enjoyed that one too. I wasn't sure what your thoughts were, but I also thought that was a pretty good follow-up.
That was pretty good. I don't know. I think that was because nobody forgets their first. So that I had really high expectations for this next one. And I just think the first one was still my thing. Are they making another Zombieland? They are, right?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Okay. I mean, I hope so. I really hope so. Or maybe Shaun of the Dead was really cool too. That those funny movies are awesome, and we can talk about Romero's, design of the slow moving zombie, the tension and all that stuff from the Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and then even on later into the Diary of the Dead. I watched that one. That was sort of a shaky cam movie that he made in 2017, but Diary of the Dead was super good still, and he's just a fantastic person that made what he knew, and he knew that he did it really well, so he kept doing it and made a ton of these creepy zombie horror movies, and it just worked, and he did an amazing job, and a lot of people still reference the idea of his zombies that he created in their movies, even though they probably don't do it as well as him, because he was like the original. Even Land of the Dead was really good in 2005. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he knew his genre, and for the most part, stuck to it. He did a documentary on O.J. Simpson before he murdered people. I wonder if he'd be interested in doing a documentary after he murdered people. Might have been more up his alley.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's topical. O.J. Simpson has a parole hearing this week that'll be televised.
Oh God.
Yeah, but yeah, he did some really cool stuff, and it's interesting to see a guy that could make his first zombie movie in 1968, and then still be making relevant, good zombie movies 40 years later. I mean, that's super impressive.
And of course, being a pop culture icon that a lot of people can recognize him, and of course he's mentored people, and they've sought advice from him, and he's just like the Stan Lee, I think, as Stan Lee is to comics and all that stuff. He is the zombie guy, and a lot of people really are gonna miss him and miss his ideas and his what he brought to the table for a lot of people.
Now, let me ask you this one. It's funny, interesting.
Sure.
I look up, best zombie movies, and they list all of the Resident Evil franchise.
Oh God.
They list some bad movies on this list too. I think it's just they're kind of listing all the zombie movies. But, what's your thought on Resident Evil as it relates to zombies? Is this, is that this genre, or, what do you think about that?
To be honest, I didn't even think about the Resident Evil genre or the
yeah,
movies.
Neither did I.
I was like, oh yeah, okay. The first one or two, I guess, are okay. I just think there was too many of them. I think we could have. There's a ton of Resident Evil games. I really like the games. Resident Evil 7 was scary. It wasn't so much zombies or whatever, but it was super scary. It was intense. It was interesting and so much fun to play. It just came out, I think, last year, Resident Evil 7. But the movies just lasted way too long, and I don't need that much. There's a ton of story in the Resident Evil franchise. There's a ton of books out there. Like I said already, there's 7 games, but I don't need that much movie on this character, on this one character or whatever. And as much as I love Mila Jovovich, she's amazing and she's gorgeous and fantastic actress, but I don't care. I mean,
well, it's funny because that was my thought. Like, I guess I think of Resident Evil as a horror film franchise or a horror game franchise, I guess I should say. But when zombies come to mind, I don't think Resident Evil, and they have all these movies on here, which was just interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's some cool zombie games as well. Like Left 4 Dead was fantastic when it came out. Left 4 Dead 2 did amazing. There's that whole Call of Duty zombies area that a lot of people love still, that have grown way, I don't know if it's too much, but like it's grown a ton since the beginning. There was just like that whole idea like, oh, okay, you're going to last a round and zombies are going to come and try and kill you. Next round, there's more zombies. Next round, there's more zombies. And now in the latest, iteration of the zombie in Call of Duty, there's like an overarching story with characters. There's these voice actors that keep coming back to play these characters. There's some specific things you can do to get to this part of the map to unlock this, whatever. It's become so intricate, like an entire movie just in this whole Call of Duty Zombies. And they've been doing that for a couple years now. And a lot of people really love that part. And a lot of people only play that part of the game and get the game just for the zombies part. And that's really interesting that can go on for so long.
Call of Duty Zombies.
Yeah, zombies, Nazi zombies. There's all this other stuff that Call of Duty likes to do and put in front of you to shoot at. So, what else is there? I mean, we can talk about The Walking Dead, that's that whole thing. What they're doing.
Well, you know
right
what?
now.
I'm just another kind of offshoot just before we get into Walking Dead with the movies. Looking up top zombie movies. I'm clicking on their IMDb, and I don't know this. This might speak to the power that George Romero had, or the legacy he left. On IMDb, it shows you the popularity, and it's always got a ticker up or down. In recent time, a lot of these really mediocre zombie movies are showing huge spikes in popularity on IMDb searches.
Oh wow.
And I wonder, I can't think of another reason why that would be the case. Just a lot of these, it's kind of weird. So I wonder if that has something to do with him and people just like wanting to get back in the genre and seeing what's worth looking at. It's kind of
maybe cool. Hopefully, I mean, it is a great genre to dive into. It's just that there's a lot of shit to sift through. A lot of shit to sift through. Yeah, I mean that's what. Yeah, that's with everything though. I think there's just a lot of content out there, and it's really hard to find what's worth it. I mean, if you are looking for zombie, traditional zombie something to get into or get started or get back into, of course, it's going to be George Romero's stuff. Just look him up, and I'm sure some of his movies are out there for cheap, or maybe they're even streaming. I think Diary of the Dead was streaming for a little while. That's a good place to start if you can't go out and buy some of these DVDs or anything like that. But there's those, or if you want to go into the funny zombie side, we talked about Zombieland, Shaun of the Dead, and all that. And on TV, if you really want to, and I don't know if you're really into it, The Walking Dead, if you're still into it, you can watch the first like 3 or 4 seasons, and I think you'll be good for The Walking Dead. I don't know about it now.
Yeah, but just stop watching The Walking Dead. Don't support them anymore.
I don't know. There's when will that stop? When will it stop? When will Walking Dead stop? I mean, because they're still making a ton of merch. They're still making a ton of money. People are still tuning in. Do you think when will the zombie fad be over? I think
when the ratings finally become mediocre. I think that's when it's going to stop.
You don't think they're just going to end it when the story's done? No.
No.
They
That's
haven't
like
done
my
that,
whole.
Yeah.
That's my whole issue with them in the first place. Is I think that they're really just kind of trying to capitalize on what they perceive to be the stupidity of the audience. And I think hopefully last year it proved to them that their audience isn't as dumb as you might think, and they're not just going to watch it blindly, because when you don't produce good product, or you just try and milk something, we're going to turn off the TV. So I think it's already started. Personal opinion, I think they got 2 years left.
Okay.
But I think they're going to be, I don't think they're going to be like canceled, quote unquote, but I think AMC is going to be like, all right, it's time to end this. Cause I guess TV shows on places like AMC don't really get canceled, so to speak.
Yeah,
Sure. I mean, it's just such a niche thing that AMC creates what they want to create, and they show it as long as it's working and their ratings expectations are lower. But obviously The Walking Dead is a totally different animal. It's a ratings giant, especially for a cable program. But I think we're about 2 years away from them going, all right, it's really not worth the promotion. It's not worth being so long in the tooth at this point. People are really starting to turn their TV sets off. Let's not like totally ruin the legacy of this television show. So I think we got 2 years.
I went to that The Walking Dead, in Universal, that whole thing, that whole section, and it was pretty cool. It was really interesting. There was like it wasn't even a ride. It was like more of a haunted house. It was a glorified haunted house with The Walking Dead's name on it. And it was like, oh, okay, this is kind of scary. There's people jumping out at you, and there's zombies, and you're going through the hospital and whatever. And I was like, oh, this was just a haunted house. Okay, cool. That's a ride, I guess, that I went to, but at Universal in LA. Some other stuff that we can talk about in TV for zombies. They've had recently some new titles that push the boundaries of what a zombie is. Like we were saying in books, there's iZombie, which a lot of people really love now. I watched the first season and it was okay for me. Just because I really love zombies. I don't know if I really enjoyed the show, but a lot of people still really enjoy the show and it's still going. The premise is that this person is a quote unquote zombie, and if she eats the brains of somebody, she gains their traits. And that's a really interesting way to do it. A lot of people have done it that way, but that's something really cool to watch on TV. And she's solving these crimes and things like that. Whatever. Santa Clarita Diet.
So you just thought that was okay? iZombie, I haven't watched it, but it seems to have developed a pretty good cult following.
It has, yeah, which is really interesting. But I stopped after like episode 6 or 7, just because I was like meh about it. I don't know. Maybe if I kept going, that I would have joined the cult of iZombie. But for me, it was
because it switched networks, right? Like, didn't it start on like a major network and then it got picked up by the CW, or am I
think it was all the way
that?
I think it was all the way CW, because
was it? Okay.
I watched it all on Hulu. It was just on Hulu, like when it would come out. So I honestly, I'm not too sure. But yeah, a lot of people really love it, and I think it's like on season 3 or 4 now. So that's pretty cool. But I wasn't the biggest fan. So tell me how I'm wrong on Twitter. Nerdy Things Pod. But there's another one, Santa Clarita Diet, that came out last year, which was really interesting. That was on Netflix. The premise is that she became a zombie, I guess, sort of, or she's slowly becoming a zombie. She's still functioning, but she has to eat brains. She has these urges and things like that. And she's kind of trying to live with her family and trying to be normal still, but they can't be normal because they have to kill all the time now. It was really funny. I really enjoyed it, and it was super interesting and sort of a modern take on how this would happen, and it was pretty enjoyable, and I watched the whole thing. So they said they were going to have a season 2 already. Season 2 was already announced, and that's on Netflix. I think that's a Netflix original that came out this year or the end of last year. But that's kind of what modern zombies are doing now in television. I'm sure we're missing some stuff, but like those are the interesting ones, I think. I don't know too much else that's
I think you
on.
Convinced me to check out Santa Clarita Diet.
Yeah. I
had no idea what it was about. I saw it pop up on Netflix, and to be honest with you, I had no idea what it was about. I really like Timothy Olyphant. I'm a huge fan
Yeah,
of his.
he's really funny.
So it intrigued me, and I'm like, oh, Drew Barrymore's doing a TV show. I mean,
Drew
it's Netflix,
Barrymore, yeah.
so that's different. But so I was actually intrigued by it. But now that I know the premise, Jules, I think you just sold me. Good job. I'm gonna check this out.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's only like 8 episodes, but it's super funny and it's really enjoyable. I don't know. Is there any? I mean, of course, we're gonna miss a ton of stuff.
I mean, it's such a huge genre, and
Sure.
I hope we didn't do it a disservice, because I know you're a big zombie fan, Jules.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily classify myself as a zombie aficionado,
Mm-hmm.
although I've seen a bunch of these movies. But the timing of this episode seemed right. We've been talking about doing something like this for a while, and obviously this week for certain reasons just seemed like the right thing to do it. So I hope we didn't do it a disservice to any of you big zombie fans out there. We'd really love to hear about the things that we did miss, because obviously we will, because it's such a broad and
Sure.
overreaching genre that's existed since the 60s. So please feel free to tweet at us. I'll do a couple zombie memes this week, and on Instagram and Facebook or whatever. Just feel free to get at us and share some of your zombie love, what you like about it, what you hate about it, and some of the things that maybe we missed and didn't hit on that really touches home to you, so we can share it with our devoted listeners on social media.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, me and Kevin did the time travel episode. That was one of our first episodes, and we had a lot of people reach out to us and show us a ton of time travel stuff that we weren't aware of, or at least I wasn't aware of. So that's really cool whenever they do that, or people do that. I'm going to be posting a ton about it on I'm going to find people that love zombies and all that stuff. So please tweet us, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what we missed. Let us know some of your favorite zombie stories, and we'll be enlightened. And of course, we'll know after that some more content, and maybe we'll find something new that we like, and we'll share it with other people. So because that's kind of how it works. You talk to us, we talk back. There's a community, whole thing. People talk to each other, and when they just talk about a bunch of nerdy stuff, because that's like what we want. We want that.
We're totally open to learning about new nerdy stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. It's funny, because when Kevin and I first started talking about doing a podcast, before it became this thing that it is, the title that we had come up with was the Know Nothing About Everything podcast. Because Kevin and I think we've come to find a compatriot here in Jules. We know a little bit about a whole lot of stuff. And we certainly do have areas of expertise, but, when it comes to talking about zombie movies, I think we can talk intelligently about it, but we know what we don't know, and we would love for you to fill in our gaps. And that goes, I think, with all of our episodes. Please, feel free to let us know what we don't know, enlighten us, and enlighten our listeners, for the things that we don't have in our knowledge base. So yeah, get at us, yo.
For sure. So we'll figure out what we're going to do next week. We're going to have Kevin back. We're going to have all 3 nerdy boys back for next week's episode, and we'll figure out what we're going to do. We'll let you know. And of course, if you are a patron, you get the episodes early. If you're a patron, you can send in the topics that you want us to talk about. You can, send us anything you want us to talk about, really. And you can email us, message us on Patreon, patreon.com/nerdythingspod. We'll read it if you pay us. That's kind of the thing. So patreon.com/nerdythingspod is where you can do that. iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, all the podcatchers and all that stuff. Tell your friends, subscribe, tell your friends to leave us an iTunes review, leave us a review on anywhere, pretty much. And you can find us at Nerdy Things Pod, Nerdy Things POD on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And we have merch at TeePublic. Search Nerdy Things Pod, no spaces. We have a bunch of designs there. You can get them on a mug. You can get stickers, t-shirts, a bunch of different kinds of t-shirts, which is really cool. And we have a ton of pretty cool stuff up there. So go check it out. 20% off with the coupon code NerdyThingsPod. I'd like to thank Adipsia for the use of his song Friends Don't Let Friends Go to TGI Fridays. You can find more of his music at adipsia.bandcamp.com.
Yeah, I would like to thank the Bell Curve as well for some of our other background music. And also, we want to remind you to check out The Stoic.
There you go. So yeah, we'll be back next week. Every Thursday is a new Nerdy Things episode. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you later.
Later, guys.